I'm Marv Newland, and over to my right is Cordell Barker, the great Cordell Barker. I have the privilege, thanks to Spark Animation in Vancouver, of being able to interview Cordell today. And I'm hoping for success, but I'm only human. So Cordell, I haven't laid eyes on you for many years. However, I know about you. I speak your name. I hear your name spoken in the animation community. Your movies, of course, will live on forever. I will just name a few of them in case people who are watching this are brain dead. You've worked on, well, the most famous. I'm going to go back deeper into your history, but the most famous movie that most people will recognize is The Cat Came Back, from 1988, 89, correct?
Right, yep.
And then there's something I don't know anything about, and I'll ask you about later, that came in 1997. You made Strange Invaders, which might be my favorite picture, in 2001. In
Right.
2009, 11, you made Runaway Train, which, you know what? I like Runaway Train.
It was
Runaway.
Runaway.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's in a train, but it's Runaway is the name, right?
Right.
That's the
right.
correct title. Okay, so Runaway in 2009. You worked on Yellow Sticky Notes. We'll look at that later. That wasn't yours. If I Was God, 2015.
Right.
Fantastic. So those are the major points in your career, I would say, unless you know of something I don't.
Well, no, I mean, because I suppose it could be argued that I might have made more films in this long span of time, but the thing is, as soon as I finished making Cat Came Back, my commercial, I just had a boatload of commercials coming at me nonstop. And so that really put a wrench in the works, and I kept feeling like I needed to make another film. But it was just years and years of just nonstop, hundreds of TV commercials. So
I have a question mark because The Cat Came Back. Well, you worked on some Sesame Street segments in 1988, I take it.
Pardon me, that it was what?
Sesame Street, was it a segment? It was Maria and Louis prepare for their wedding. Oh.
That's the title?
That's the title I have.
Yeah. Well, if I did it, like, my memory is horrible, but I'm sure I would have remembered that.
Okay.
But anyway, I did a ton of those, and that even started at the animation studio. Like when I was 17, I cut my teeth on Sesame Street because Winnipeg had the contract to do the French version of, like, counting to 10 for Sesame Street, that kind of thing. So it was an easy entry in a way. It was almost like you didn't even have to know how to animate. You just had to have a certain sense of timing and hold a character together somewhat, because they were pretty grotesque and ill-proportioned characters that I did. But it was great. It was a great launching pad for me.
So this was in 1988?
No, this would have been starting back in 74.
Okay, so was this at Ken Perkins?
Yeah. And I was there for 3 years. And then even when I left Ken Perkins, I still did some Sesame Street and K-Tel commercials.
Right. And probably people don't know about K-Tel, but
no.
K-Tel was famous all over the world. And the commercials were all being made in Winnipeg.
Yes.
And along with old Dutch potato chip commercials, they were among my favorite animation commercials of the 70s, I would guess.
Right. Well, if you remember them at all, the one that I did that I really liked was Surfing Bird. Okay. And I forget the exact action. Oh, and Dead Skunk in the Middle of the Road. Those were two of the ones that I did. And the contract would come in, the record would come in, and we'd and the animators would just dive on the project and go, okay, I want that one, I want that one. And we'd each take it, because they were each little scenario was only like a couple of bars of music, right? Enough to recognize the piece. So you only had like, I don't know, 8 seconds of, or less, 6 seconds of some little action that you'd animate.
K-Tel presents Goofy Great! 24 funky hits by the original stars, Ohio Express.
Yummy, 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 I got love in my tongue.
Brian Highland.
An itsy bitsy teeny weeny yellow polka dot bikini.
Hollywood Argyle.
Look at that caveman go.
Ray Stevens.
Ahab, the Arab.
1910 Fruit Gum Company.
And you will never be out.
Surfing Birds. Nashville Cat. Bread and Butter. Bonnie Maroney. And many more. Remember Shirley Ellis.
Shirley, Shirley, Burley, Banana, Pineapple,
Larry Bird.
Please, Mr. Custer.
The Royal Guardsmen.
The bear shot him down.
Curse is wild again. Get Goofy Greats. 24 of the world's greatest novelty hits by the original stars. $5.99 from K-Tel. Tape $6.99.
Yeah, but it was the kind of thing where that I didn't feel overwhelming pressure. It wasn't like doing a normal TV ad. It was like, you know, you just sort of felt like, well, it's K-Tel. Like, how good does it have to be? Right? So, and that was good for me, because I was very nervous. Everything I took on, I was just anxious about, is this good enough? I'm working with real animators here. And, you know, but I relaxed into it because of, it was a perfect alignment of low pressure, what felt to me like low pressure work. And that allowed me to gain a certain amount of self-worth in the thing. And so I was there for 3 years.
This is Ken Perkins.
Yeah. Yeah. So between 74 and 77, that kind of thing.
Yeah, one of the earliest independent animation studios in all of Canada.
Yeah, see, I didn't know that. You know, I stepped in that studio feeling like, well, I guess it's been around for 30 years, even though Ken was only 34 at the time. But, you know, you have that sensibility of like, everything's been around. When you're 17, everything's been the way it was since time immemorial, right? Like, it's just, this is the way the universe is. Yes. Everyone lives like this, everyone works like this. And that was my mindset. And so it was a really good start.
Did you work on Get a Job, the Brad Casler movie?
Yeah, I did do something for it, but it was a perfect fit, because there was like a K-Tel commercial within Get a Job. So Brad asked me if I wanted to animate the thing. And
great.
I know, see, my whole career is serendipity. Things just sort of like fell in front of me, and just kind of, it worked into my wheelhouse, and kind of, yeah. I'll give you another weird little quirk that again, it was just like serendipity that allowed my profession to move forward, is that when I finally got tired of doing commercials at Perkins, and I thought, I want to do a film board film. And the reason I decided to approach the film board was, you know, back in the day, the film board always had some animation in front of feature films, you know, at the theaters. They would attach them on. And I saw this film, I won't say what it was, but I thought, wow, geez, I can do better than that. You know, like, cause it just seemed so simple and so, you know, like there wasn't much to it. And I thought, I'm gonna present one. And it had to do with, I came up with this idea of an old man and his cat, and without any awareness of the cat came back. And so it had to do with, because the first house I was in, I was freezing in it. Like, it had terrible heat, and it was a cold winter. And then I just started thinking about cat, and it was a really hackneyed idea, but I presented it. I did a little thumbnail storyboard, presented it to the film board, and they said, well, we don't like your storyboard. We don't like your idea, but we want to kind of pursue the idea of animating The Cat Came Back that Fred Penner had made famous as a children's entertainer. And they said, do you want to take that on? And I was just like, sure. It just seemed like things just lining up in front of me. Yeah, it was the weirdest thing. So if that little opportunity hadn't presented itself at that moment, you know, I don't know what I would have been doing.
I have a similar background, and I can say to you that you probably helped those people out. They were probably desperate, you know, and then in comes this guy that can draw. Oh, great, you know, he'll save us. And it worked
Maybe.
out for you, and it worked out for them. So,
Well, I don't think they expected much, because I think I was just some young guy on the side that they didn't really expect much out of it. I accepted the Cat Came Back job on just pennies. Like, it was just a really low budget. But I thought, well, I'll do it. And so they left me alone pretty much. And so if they would have stepped in as a producer, let's say, and said, I don't know, this isn't looking that good, it's not drawn that well, I would have probably crumbled under the pressure. So again, it was just lucky alignment of personalities and situations, you know.
so if your animation career didn't take off at that period, what do you think you would have done?
I would have been renovating houses, because I was good with my hands. I built my parents' garage for them when I was 16, and just, yeah, and I bought a house next door to me to reno it from the little house I was living in. And I thought, okay, Cat Came Back's over. It's going to be terrible. Before it even launched into the festivals, I bought the house next door and thought, okay. And I lined up my buddy of mine that we were going to be home renovation guys. We'd buy a house, reno it, flip it over, that kind of thing, you know.
Yeah.
And then, so I bought the house, and then all of a sudden my film kind of took off, and I was getting all kinds of commercial work, and it was like, oh, now what do I do? So I had to juggle that. But yeah, weird.
You had two successful paths ahead of you.
Well, yeah, I don't think so. I mean, when I finally sold the house, I sold it at a loss. So it was just a ton of work. So, so maybe maybe that was good, because my path was set in the animation category. So yeah.
What year would that have, what year would that have been?
That would have been 87.
Okay.
Because my film came out in 88, but or it finished early. I forget which one it was, of like, oh yeah, 88.
Okay.
And so I was renovating during like the rest of 88, because it came out in the spring. So the whole rest of 88 and into the winter of 88 and rolling into 89, I was just working on that house and doing nothing else. No animation, nothing.
What about Strange Invaders? That was your next epic, right?
Yeah, and as you can imagine, the sophomore curse, I was
Yeah.
very mindful of the risk of that, right? And so in fact, I had done a whole different thing about fear, irrational fears. Like I have this thing about spiders. I just, and I can't understand why it doesn't bother other people or why it bothers me so much. But you know, I'm one of the ones that is horribly terrified of spiders. And so I started doing this long process of working on this storyboard, and it just went forever. But again, serendipity stepped in. And so we were in a tiny house. It was, when we first moved in, it was like 650 square feet. And we had a kid, like I was married and we had a kid. And so I'm trying to work on this, on my film and of course it's just a baby and screaming away. And I would just be working just like, it's like this thing has entered our house, and it's just, and it has a purpose, you know, like it's mindfully trying to like suck every ounce of energy out of my body. And it was super frustrating. I mean, it was great having the kid, but
What is that smell? You made me want it! Stop calling me that!
Jackson was my youngest, and I was able to record him just in time because it was at the right age for kind of nonsensical answers and little bursting. He would say everything in a bursting sort of way. And but anyway, so that was perfect inspiration to do. I thought, well, I'm going to use that idea of where this thing has entered, and that it's a common thing that these things enter your house in order to suck the life out of you. And that's how they kind of that's how they grow, or something along those lines. And so that idea was full of little side ideas that I could put in, and I had to strip a lot of them out of there because it was getting too long, you know. And I even had this whole sequence that it took me a long time to, you know, that expression of you know, to kill your babies, you know. Yes. And one of them was about having a priest come, and it was like a whole train of nuns coming up and filing up the staircase to go see the kid, kind of thing, as the couple waited, and all the nuns fall out the window and they're all dead out in the snow. And I like the whole black and white motif, you know, of the snow and black and all that kind of thing. And then I thought, oh no, it's getting, the storyline's getting too busy and I had enough other stuff. So I kept it to the husband, the wife, and the kid. So, and that is also one of my favorites because it's goofy and social satire. I love that. So yeah.
Right.
So again, yeah, it fed into my whole life motif of what was going on. That film, you know, it worked out.
Let's talk about Runaway. I love Runaway. I love the engineer of that train is one of my favorite all-time animation characters.
Yeah, well, that really fit into, like I said, I like social satire. That one, I really wanted to make a black comedy about society in general, and that was tricky. That one was complicated, you know, and it may not seem like it coming out the other end, but in order to get it to that position and have that kind of flow was quite a complex task. I mean, I had originally it was going to start out from a train station and the people getting on and introducing them, but everything just got bulky and I just had to strip it to the bone at what I felt was the bone. And even at that, it was 9 minutes long, by far my longest film. And also another comment I'd like to make is I always felt that that film was unfinished, and that, well, visually it should have had a bit more polish. I think it would have been better if things were just polished a bit more. Characters, the color palette, like just certain aspects of it would have been, you know, I think it would have been better, and maybe a little bit more editing in spots and that kind of thing. That's one I have regrets over, because I like it. It's my second favorite film, but I know it didn't do as well as I hoped it would, because I think because of those little flaws. So
you're robbing me of remarks that I would plan to make after we spoke of your most recent movie, which is
I'm undermining.
Well, we can talk about If I Was God after this, because the remarks apply, but I always think your movies look like there aren't any goof ups. They're exactly what you wanted, and it all works. I don't see, like once in a while I just see like a little scene in someone's movie and just go, oh, I bet they don't like that, or that didn't quite work or something. But your pictures seem to be just right.
Oh yeah? Oh, well, that's good.
I admire the production on your pictures.
Oh,
very
thanks. Well, I think my greatest strength, it's certainly not drawing, it's timing. Is like, I've always thought timing for me is the thing. And I'll see like feature films, like live action things, and there's just like that thing didn't happen at that split second that it should have happened. And I guess I feel that stuff. And even in the early days of animation, I could tell that was my strength, not drawing. And maybe that's why I'm not good at drawing. I'm getting better, but maybe it's if your strength is somewhere else, something else has to suffer, or something like that. I don't know. So
well, but I'll just make a general overall remark here to anyone that's watching. No artist should ever judge their own work. They'll never do it properly. They'll either overestimate or underestimate. They'll never hit it on the nail on the head.
Yeah, that's true.
A perfect example of that.
Right.
When you worked with Richard Conde on the voice for Runaway, how did that work? Did it click? Did you have to just record a bunch of sounds and then cut them in later? Can you talk on that?
On Runaway?
On Runaway. Richard's voice.
Was he in Runaway?
He's the voice of the engineer, is he not?
Oh yeah. Right.
He basically just goes,
Yeah, because he had that arch way of like, oh hello, that kind of real grand arch method of delivery.
He was a royal engineer. It was fantastic.
Yeah, like an admiral kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, I can't believe that, because I had him in Cat Came Back, and then I think I wanted him to do the voice in Strange Invaders, but I don't know why I didn't, or maybe he didn't want to do it or something like that. And so yeah, no, it's always great working with Richard. I mean, he can really deliver a line, but I mean, he delivers a line almost like it can't really be a script. It's really just kind of emoting a feel, right? And then let him just do all this little stuff that he wants to do to make it kind of come out. So it wasn't really scripted. It was just kind of riffing and picking and choosing the bits and pieces to cut together. Oh yeah, no, his voice really makes the projects, right? Like
it's the perfect voice for that character.
Yeah.
Basically, in The Cat Came Back, it's him screaming all the time.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, any other voice would have actually taken that film down a notch, I think. So.
Hello! Enchanted! How lovely that you've joined us here in our little... yes. Oh my! What a precious little... May I touch your fuzzy little...
The engineer, though, it's a little more subtle, and the voice is perfect for that character, I think. And
Yeah. Oh, that wow,
Yes.
you know, that kind of thing, and that totally different than Cat Came Back, but still in the same kind of universe of just this larger than life projecting kind of guy that doesn't know his place in the world, right? Like that's what it is.
Oh, okay, let's see here. Well, you worked on in 2013. You did a little sequence for Yellow Sticky Notes, the Canadian Jam, which is pretty cool. Did you like doing that?
Yeah, it was just sort of refreshing because you have this tiny little canvas in a way, right? Just these little bits of paper in it, and it just forced me to be just loose and not sweat anything. And I did it out on my porch in the summer, and it was just in the hammock, and you know, it was just kind of, yeah, a very pleasant experience doing something like that. Yeah,
There's a
and
great-
being a part of that whole Anna Jam like thing, right? Like to be up, knowing I'm going to be inserted in a thing that is among other filmmakers that I respect, you know, that was kind of nice to be
Yeah,
invited
Jeff-
into that.
Jeff made a pretty good selection of people, and so
Yeah.
it's interesting. You were saying you were out on your hammock drawing on the little, you know, the whole thing's drawn on little sticky note pads with a specific pen, so that the director, Jeff Chiba Stearns, when he invites everybody, he says, okay, you work on this movie, but you have to make all of your animation on yellow sticky note, and you have to use the yellow sticky note pen. So you're, you know, more or less trapped in trapped, but also relieved, basically, because you know,
Trapped in a
everyone's got
good-
the same limitations.
Right, trapped in a good way. Yeah.
And there's a great photo of Chris Hinton sitting outdoors drawing in a pig pen, and there's a pig right next to him, and his drawings are pasted onto the pig's head.
Onto the pig, yeah. Yeah, that's
So
right.
everyone took it in a casual manner, and I think that worked out. Okay, let's talk about If I Was God. Fantastic picture.
By the way,
Really big departure here for you.
Yes.
It went to 3D, right?
Three-dimensional. I mean, 3D almost for a lot of people that imply computer, but no,
Stop
the
motion.
actual three-dimensional world of puppets and all of that. And I just like the surreality of that, of stop motion and puppets, and about a kid with a memory, manufactured memory, but a memory of something in the past. I just like the idea of doing it stop mo, and also because it forces me to work with others, because when I work, it's always out of my spare bedroom since 1977. It's been out of my spare bedroom. So I thought I want to get, and I'm a pretty reclusive guy at times, but I was just sort of sick of just toiling away in a room by myself for years and years on end. So I thought, no, I want to work with a team and do puppet stuff and have a crew do the puppets and like actually manipulate them and all that. And but it was a very trying thing, because when you're working by yourself, you can deal with the questions that come up because they're your own questions, and you deal with them as you move along, and you don't even have to verbalize. But that was the daily phone calls or contact, or like online, dealing with every tiny little detail of like the design of the rheostats on the desk, and just everything. And while I'm trying to work on other things, like other aspects of the film, and so it was overwhelming. That was something else.
I wasn't exactly an ace student, but maybe that was because our teacher was old Ms. Lumley. You couldn't help but tune her out. So in a way, the teacher was to blame for what happened next. Right there. That was the moment. Had I really brought that frog back? Had I done some trick that only a god can do? I didn't know, but it was my first glimpse of real power. I could feel it surging all through me. If I was a god, I could play like that anytime I wanted. I could keep that old frog going indefinitely. Who but a god could toy with life and death?
To go from 2D to 3D, there must have been something that bee flew in your ear or something.
Just a change. I didn't want to do the same.
Didn't want to be in your bedroom. Whoa, everyone's locked up again.
And everything, right? And path of least resistance, and you just kind of, and it could be argued that is a path to success. I know Bill Plimpton, he always said, yeah, just develop your style and maintain that style and forge ahead with that, and that could be argued, right? Like that, I mean, argued on his side of the coin of that is the path. But I don't know, I just sort of felt like I wanted to I agree with that in theory, but I wanted to do this other thing instead and just see how that went.
Well, your lead character, in the movie is definitely of your creation. It's one of your 2D drawings to a 3D life.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I can only draw what I can draw. And so I guess, yeah, it would tend to look somewhat like the characters I would draw.
Yeah, but the movie itself, I guess this is why I was waiting to tell you about how much I admired your production and how solid your movies look. You think they look loose, and they are loose, but they're solid production of loose, and that makes them work. And If I Was God really works because it's probably your most formal movie, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And it looks very nice all the way through, even though crazy things are happening. And that is a nice quality to what you do. So yeah.
Well, I wanted it to be recognizable and have a nostalgic feel, so I knew it had to be grounded in a space, and other than the flights of fantasy, that take place within the thing, but at the same time, I was worried that it would come across as a very traditional, because it's in this structured way that I couldn't do, I can't do the things on a whim that I can do when I'm doing my own animation. I can just suddenly have anything happen on a whim or go back to it on a whim and go, oh no, I'm going to change that and just do this stupid thing. And so, yeah, I did feel much more hemmed in by that process. I mean, you had all these different people working on different disciplines, and I couldn't just go, no, trash all that, redo the set, rebuild everything. And, because it's an expensive process, right? And
did you make drawings of props that were created?
Yeah.
Like, I'd like it to be like this, for instance.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, I went to the trouble of, learning how to use Blender and building the sets in, there's not that many sets, but building what I needed to build and putting different lenses, like virtual lenses, in Blender so that I could see, well, how many desks are visible and what does it look like if I space the desks and under this lens. And so I could see, well, how big do I need these walls to be, and how much of it will be visible under this lens, and all that kind of thing, just to take the element of chance out of it. And but I learned enough. I took 6 months and I learned enough using Blender, trying to train myself in Blender, to realize I could never learn Blender. Like I could if I wanted to devote my career path over into CGI, but this was just for this film. And I was like, well, this is ridiculous. So but I did use the product out of Blender, these CGI references, to create accurate images like backgrounds as reference, and placing the characters where I knew that the lens would see the characters to the side and secondary actions. And then I did cutout animation in my computer to work on timing, so that if a character did a thing and then looked up, that the other character looked up at this exact amount of time, because I knew with my crew doing the stop mo, I was going to be really fussy about timing. And it's one thing to alter your timing in 2D animation, but if I told the crew, oh no, that you were out by a few frames, like it just feels like there's too much of a pause before the second reaction occurs, that it had to all be worked out ahead of time. So I did that to mitigate against a lot of frustration on the part of the crew. And it worked out really well. I mean, they took it to heart, and they made sure the timing was hitting the marks.
Do you use timing sheets?
No, I just create my my animatics with cutout, like the cutout style of animation in the system, with a time code running, a frame counter running on it, and then they can take that and
So they know
they have all these little targets. Yeah,
they know what frame to
yeah
pop.
yeah what frame a hand goes up, or a blink occurs, or something like that. I'm sure it's frustrating for them, because they would do it more on a gut reaction of like just animating and feeling it coming, and all these different things happening when you flow, right? And so I'm giving them references that are built more on in-betweening, like a reference of in-betweening, where instead of straight ahead animation, like some of the old animators would do, right? Just straight ahead stuff.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm sure it was frustrating, but they did a great job.
Well, you're the director. That's your job.
Yeah, I guess so. But I didn't want to be that hard ass that throw everything out, because they're out there.
Yep, they are.
I know of some. So
Yep. I don't know how much time we have, but is this backwards on screen for you, or is it forward?
No, it's right. C.
Okay.
Barker, I see.
Yeah.
You have files on me.
I have files on everybody.
Yeah, I remember that. In fact, I have it in my studio somewhere. I forget where it is, but yeah, I have that one.
I have better things.
I always like that one.
I love envelopes.
Rocket parts.
This is ancient. This is from 19 1892, back in the 20th century.
Wow.
And you wrote me a little letter, which I think is very nice, about a book that I sent to
Oh
you.
yeah.
And you say in your letter, I hope you enjoy my book. By an incredible coincidence, hot off the presses today. So you sent me your book, which mocks the cover on my book, which I thought was just tremendous.
Boy, I
And
barely remembers this stuff.
this is so good. A treasure. Anyway, you draw fleas. Here are fleas. Actual size, apparently. But you do some other very nice draw. Oh, well, here. Some of my personal stuff. Don't tell me you can't draw, Cordell. Just don't.
I have
This
my
is
own
sensational stuff.
way of doing it, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to embarrass you. I'm flattering you here. Look at this beautiful drawing.
Oh my God. Oh, I don't even remember that one. Holy mackerel.
Okay, you want to see it some more?
Yeah. Oh, that worked out. Yeah, I mean,
Anyway.
if I'm really loose and I can, I remember Brad Castler saying he really liked my sketchy drawings. Those are the only, I can only do those when I'm not trying to do a commercial character, right? Like where
Okay.
it's just, there's no stopping and redrawing. It's just the pen starts moving and I actually even like those myself. But as soon as I try to do a structured character, they just look really trite and ill thought out. So I've got to be just scribble it out.
Follow the pencil.
Yeah.
You know,
I should try doing a film like that sometime, but I just sort of can't. Keen.
We
This
sent
was-
you an international rocket ship T-shirt, and you sent this back
Oh, okay. So that's the rocket ship logo on the
on the T-shirt.
on
yeah.
the t-shirt. Yeah, I wore that a ton. I wore that out like till it was rags.
More cool envelopes. I love envelopes.
Marv Newland.
So
Yeah, I really got into rubber stamps at that era.
I hope you don't mind.
Mind? No?
Yeah,
Oh,
here's
well.
some rubber stamps.
Oh yeah, I use that stamp a lot. That one, the
Cool.
Barker mail.
How can you have an unhappy day if this arrives in your mailbox? Right?
Well, you can't. You can't.
No.
It's impossible.
That's right. So thank you. You know,
Yeah, you're welcome. Wow, you're a real saver.
I am a saver, and I don't blackmail anybody. I treasure this stuff.
You know, I save things too. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, the whole tune catalog. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, someone who put out a catalog of animation materials, drawings and DVDs and so on, was
Right.
stupid enough to have a guy that can't draw do the cover art for their catalog.
Slipped in through the cracks, I guess.
Fantastic.
But what was I gonna say about that? I forgot. Oh yeah, I like doing that one.
Horribly produced book, the pages and everything. You're lucky if you have a bound copy of this book. You know you have one of 3 on Earth that are still bound. The pages just fall out. I can't read this. I can't open it, or it'll break open.
Is that right? Eh? I mean, I have it, but it hasn't been opened in ages. It's in my
Of
bookshelf.
course.
There. Yeah.
I got mine in the Walmart discount bin.
Is that right? Eh? Well, good for you. Covered by hundreds of of the same one, right?
Not intact, just the pages from
Yeah,
other.
yeah. Right. Yeah. Had to fish out the ones and make a book out of it. But that was a taxing one, and that was my last one, right? So I couldn't go out on that note. like being in a totally different style, being hemmed in by the discipline of stop mo. So on my current one, I'm going back to like hand drawn and doing a very sort of naive style.
Oh, okay.
You know, I just want to, you know. And then I have another one in store. I won't even say what it is. Like if the film board agrees to produce another one, I want it to be the blackest of satires just really, and I won't even say what the premise is. I know what the idea is, and it's perfect for super black satire.
Great.
Yeah.
Is it?
I'm looking forward to that, because the one I'm currently working on is probably the hardest thing I've ever done.
Oh.
Yeah.
But
But
is it also 2D?
Yeah, it's all 2D, but it's well, I can say it's about AI, but I interviewed all these specialists from around the world, and I just wanted to get just little statements, little snippets of things, and weave it together almost like free verse. But then I wasn't even thinking, is like, okay, once you do that, well, how do you animate it? Because then it becomes CSA, right? Like it's like they're making a statement. What am I going to do? Just animate the very thing that they're saying? So I have to kind of glaze the statements, the connection of statements over top of the thing that kind of carries it. It's connected, but not in a CSA fashion. So it's just like, is torture. So anyway, my next one will be totally different. It'll be more like a cross between, I always think of it as a cross between Strange Invaders and Runaway.
Okay.
I would say.
That's the one that's coming after the AI movie?
After this current one.
Okay.
Yeah.
You said it was going to be black humor.
Yeah.
Is it politically incorrect?
Well, not necessarily.
Okay.
No, I mean, that's sort of separate from it, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, we'll see. I mean, I could say that now. I mean, who knows how that'll turn out. It may turn out to be less, less black than some of the other ones I've done. And but I just love the idea. I love black humor. I mean, there's pretty much nothing that can outrage me, I mean, and even when my kids were little, I mean, I'm talking small, I'm going to dinners in the neighborhood or parties, and the parents would be like, I'd mention, oh yeah, I get my kids to watch The Simpsons with me, and the parents would be going, oh my God, you let your kids watch The Simpsons? And I'd be going, The Simpsons? Like, to hell, I have them crowd around and watch South Park with me, and they'd be like, they were horrified. And it was just like, what does it matter? None of that matters, right? It's who you are, right? And if you can't handle black comedy, it says more about you than it does about the project, than it says about the film, right? So
good point.
Yeah. So anyway, that's my view of it. And I just like it. I just like the way films like that really challenge you. It just shoves it in your face, or it's subtle, but the undercurrent screams out at you, even if the visual doesn't, and I don't know, just, it appeals to me a lot. The ultimate black comedy to me is Dr. Strangelove. I think that is the ultimate. I've seen black comedy since then, but nothing quite handles it like Dr. Strangelove. I saw that as a kid. That was just like lit me up, and yeah.
I just read something about Jeff Hale and Derek Lamb early career at the film board, and they made an animated movie about Santa Claus being robbed out in the desert somewhere. And that movie, that short in Canada, ran before Dr. Strangelove, before the Kubrick movie in theaters.
Wasn't that the Great Train Robbery or something like that? Like the short? or something along those lines. And I'm probably mixing things up.
Well, I should remember, I just read it. I read it, like an hour ago.
Anyway, yeah, brilliant
I
stuff.
have it here. I'll solve it. Well, that was back in the days before, or when they would put animation before live movies.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
So it was pretty cool.
Well, my Cat Came Back was placed before A Fish Called Wanda. And Fish Called Wanda was I don't know if that was across Canada, but in Winnipeg, I mean, that was a monster hit that summer. And everybody went and saw Fish Called Wanda, and they got to see, I had a big audience because of that. That was great.
Right. Well, I've got to find this now. I thought I jumped out of my seat when I read that. I mean, how would you like to have your picture, have an animated short movie you make run in front of a Kubrick film? Fantastic. Even
if it didn't happen for whatever reason, just to be asked to have Kubrick contacting you, my God. Amazing.
I can't find this thing that I just had in my hands minutes ago. Anyway.
That's all right.
It's a Jeff Hale and Derek Lam movie with Santa Claus out in the desert being robbed. Yeah,
I'm sure I've seen it.
Well, you were influenced by early film board stuff, right?
Oh yeah, one that really stood out to me, which it probably won't sound like it would be the kind of thing that I would, but it's Paul Dreesen's An Old Box.
Yeah.
What? I loved that film, but I think it was because as goofy as my stuff can be and sort of wild and screamy and all that kind of stuff, there's like, if I see films, I like the ones that they have this kind of melancholic quality to it, and the music in that was just, I would hum that melody endlessly, and it's like a vamp or like a canon, right? Like the music just keeps on going and building on itself, and just that the imagery of that and that character and those simple lines, and it just blew me away.
He doesn't put anything on screen that doesn't have to be there.
No,
So,
and in fact, when I first started doing Cat Came Back, designing the characters, they all started to look like, in fact, I have a drawing of one of the early designs for Mr. Johnson, and it looked like a Paul Dreesen character.
okay.
So it was undeniable influence for me.
For all of those out there in
Yeah.
the world that don't know Paul Dreesen's work, that's what it looks like.
Yeah, great stuff.
He's made more animated shorts than maybe anybody on earth, personal movies.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, he just knows what he wants and he moves forward. And whereas like I tend to, it's not like I abandon the projects, but I throw out so much stuff and crisis of confidence and just restaging things. And, it's a ridiculous amount of time I put in it. And yeah, so that's why I sort of feel the pressure if I'm required to get something done in a timely fashion. I'm just not used to that. It's
Well, you made commercials.
freaky.
You've made tons of commercials, right? You must have.
Yeah,
made
but
that deadline.
commercials, right? Like yeah, I mean, I did 3 years of Bell telephone ads, and I really liked those because they were these scribbly doodle characters, but it was in my wheelhouse. They're all acting in all these bursty actions, and it was all about timing, and it's just with these scribbly characters, and you had a concise thing that you had to do in 30 seconds and in and out, and I actually liked them, but I felt no pressure other than getting it done in the time allotted. And yeah, but I'm a totally different guy when I work on my own films. And they're not really, my films aren't any better or worse than my ads. They're just sort of the same. I don't know. So I don't know. I'd beat myself up.
Here he is, ladies and gentlemen, the worst judge of his own work.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah,
Cordell Barker.
maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you mentioned a set of what is it the commercials you just talked about that you like?
Oh, Bell telephone.
Yeah. Was there much interference from clients? Because I mean, that's a huge company.
Yeah, no, actually, the agency, well, not from the Bell, no, never any influence from Bell, but the agency, no, in fact, a couple of times, I mean, there was one where they were trying to come up with an idea, but they were pressured to turn these things around in like I would animate them at home, jump on a plane and take the artwork. This is back before computers were fully embraced. So this was early to mid-ish 90s. And I'd come home from Montreal, having delivered the previous job, come home, and I'd have 2 weeks, and I'd have to get the commercial done, pack it all up and take it to Montreal. So it would be shot and assembled while I was there and presented to the client. And the agency, no, and then the Bell client. And no, they were always very happy with pretty much everything I delivered. And but it was a vicious cycle. It was just horrific. It was working on that project. That was 7 days a week, month in, month out, endlessly. So by the end of 3 years, I was grossly underweight. Like I was 6'1" and 134 pounds.
Lord.
And yeah, it was I was just wasting away and had weird headaches, and I'd be asking everyone in Montreal, is there some kind of gas in this place, or that, and I'm hearing ringing, and I'm just like and I wouldn't eat. It was just a mess. So I finally had to quit the project. So it's just preservation of health. But I remember it fondly because it was just such a formative thing, and getting things done, approved, on to the next, and pure timing. Way less drawing. It's all timing, and that's my total wheelhouse.
Well, you keep saying that, so I'm tending to believe you.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to throw out every drawing you ever sent to me.
Yes.
Speaking of drawing, you started drawing at age 17. Well, what do you recommend to people who have that same horrible habit that might be watching this?
Of not being like,
what do you do with yourself if you like to draw and you're young and you don't know what to do, where your life's going and so on?
Well, I liked the idea of drawing, but I didn't really draw that much. But I liked the idea of being an animator. I loved watching cartoons. So I guess the thing is, throw yourself in a thing where you're forced to draw all the time. So in a way, I got my job without being able to draw properly. Like my portfolio, which I don't even have anymore. But in fact, here's a good little anecdote. When I approached Ken Perkins, and I was really nervous about that, I had my crappy drawings in there, and then he said, "Oh, I like that one." But he pointed out a drawing that I actually did a tracing out of what was it called? Walt Disney's the Art of Walt Disney, that big thick white
Yep.
book. I
Yep.
traced that out, and I just liked how that looked. I was thinking, how come I can't draw like that? And it was in there, and he pointed at that, and I just remember my heart just about going through my forehead, and thinking, oh my God, like it's just like the one thing he pointed at isn't even anything I did. But I got the job, and then it forced me, and I was stressed all the time because it was like I was working with actual animators and having to sort of mush stuff together to make a commercial out of the thing. So, I guess it was like just throw yourself into a thing, because I did not have the discipline to draw at home. I like the idea of it, but I could never really force myself to do it. Exactly. Career built on lies. Exactly. Yeah, in many ways it is. Yeah.
Well, there's serendipity and
Yeah,
luck
in
and
everything.
all that, but you have to be ready and equipped to deal with that. If you're not, your chance will go by. You
Yes.
drop the ball.
Yeah.
And this isn't my interview, but there's one thing about animation and one thing about people that draw pictures. You can't bullshit. You either got it or you don't, and people recognize it right away. I mean, they might look at a Saul Steinberg drawing and say, this guy can't draw, but he can. And I wish I could draw like that, but
Yeah.
it's you've either got it or you don't. That's it. So
For
if you
some-
can draw, keep going.
Yeah. Well, I think like I say, in my case, my timing allowed me to stay in the business long enough for me to bring my drawing along, right? And
Sure.
like the serendipity of getting the Bell project, in a way, you didn't need to know how to draw because you're drawing stick figures, right? Like, but they had to be timed.
This was drawn by someone that can't draw.
Yeah, well, I can
draw. He doesn't even know how to draw. Look at this.
I can copy somebody else's thing fairly well, and
The lead character with the big red nose is your character.
right.
So sorry.
No, I got to admit, I do like that image. I thought it turned out well.
Fantastic image.
And I know I captured everybody's style on the thing.
Yeah. I love Janet Perlman, her penguin being held in the arms of Richard Conde's Lady from the Big Snit. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And Brad Kazler's dog from Get a Job.
Well, and it was difficult too, because it's like, well, who do you include and who do you exclude? Because I mean, there's a lot of like I was a big fan of Zlatko Girgic's, like hot stuff. That was another one. I saw that at Ken Perkins Animation on the old flatbed, and that just blew my mind. That was so funny. The timing, just sort of quirky looking characters, not your traditional kind of characters, and the kind of thing that I really liked, much more so than I liked watching cartoons like that more than watching, let's say, a Bugs Bunny cartoon or something, along that line. Because it felt accessible, right?
Yeah, that was a great cartoon. But what I liked about it is you could see that it was made by one or two people.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, this thing's up on a big screen and a couple of people made it. I mean, like,
because it's the stuff that requires in-betweeners that smooths all the action out, and it takes away the personal quirks of a single animator, right? So soon as things are keyed out and it's in between, it gets a flow that I don't know, it changes everything. I mean, I love a lot of the stuff. I mean, I did. I mean, I loved Bugs Bunny cartoons, but it was something about Hot Stuff that made it seem like it was so much more accessible, and it was about the timing and the jokes and the, I don't know, different beast entirely.
Well, why don't you have fur?
Me fur? What fur?
How about feathers? You could have feathers. Fur, anything. It's got scales. Cold scales. Hey! Who, me? What? Hello?
Yes, you.
Who said that?
That must be the gardener.
How would you like to have warmth?
Sure. Yeah. Hey, Al, what do you think?
Sure do it. Why not?
You're not going to listen to him again. Scram!
Go back to your apple turnovers.
Yes, yes, we'll take it, of course.
Wow.
Wait. Under one condition.
Conditions.
You must not be careless.
Who's being careless?
The fire is to be your slave.
Yeah.
You must never set it free.
Okay.
For though it will serve you faithfully,
Serve faithfully.
it will devour all of mankind if given half the chance. Now go and have a hot time.
Thanks a lot. Al, look at it, it's beautiful. Oh, thank you. Thanks. Oh, fantastic.
I don't like the way it moves.
Oh, warm. Oh, nice warm. Oh, Oh, nice warm. Ah!
Be careful. Be careful, I said. Be careful.
Frankly, I wouldn't touch the stuff.
I think I'll call it, I know. I think I'll call it the wheel.
I was looking at Brad Kasler's resume and so on, and he, after he made Get a Job, he went out and worked on like feature films with Daffy Duck cartoons and Cool World with Ralph Bakshi and Thief and the Cobbler with Richard Williams.
He did?
Yeah, I didn't know that. I mean, when you look at his animation, it's richly animated. Get a Job. And
wow,
full animation.
Brad and I we'd years ago, but we'd go out and shoot pool and talk about animation or filmmaking and stuff. I never knew any of that. Weird. Wow.
Well, maybe it's bad internet information. There's a lot of
No, I'm sure it's true. 'Cause, I mean, he's an incredibly talented
and loved animation, loved cartoons.
Yeah.
I remember going to some kind of animation seminar or something very important in Toronto one time. And when I was there, I found a flyer for a cartoon show produced by a not famous, but a well-known cartoon presenter. What's his name? I'll think of it. Maybe Keith will remember. But anyway, I saw this flyer and it was a whole bunch of Warner Brothers and MGM cartoons and so on and so forth. And I went, wow, these things are going to be shown in town. So I left the seminar, got on the subway and went to this theater and walked in when it was pitch black and the cartoons were on the screen. And I sat down and I thought, oh, I hope no one ever sees me here because I'm supposed to be at this seminar, blah, blah, blah. So we watched about 6 cartoons and the lights came up. And in the same row I'm sitting in, it's Brad Kasler and a bunch of, maybe you for all I know, but I recognized Brad right away. And I thought, oh, you snuck out of that seminar. I mean, you're in trouble. We're all there watching cartoons.
Oh man.
Fantastic.
So this film presentation was, are you talking about Mike and Spike?
No, I'm talking about a guy in Toronto. This is before Mike and Spike. Oh, shoot.
Okay.
So one mighty important question to ask you, Cordell. What makes Winnipeg such a great a breeding ground for funny, fun, hilarious, poorly drawn animated cartoons.
All right. Yeah, well, I don't know. I guess Winnipeg was just sort of big enough to have enough young people in it that were sort of had different interests and all that, but it had an animation studio, and then became another one that was live action and with an animation component in the company. But so enough to sort of breed some animators, but there wasn't an industry big enough to gobble them up into just sort of the grunt work side of animation. And so it fostered this kind of independent, it was just the right size and just the right lack of opportunity in a way, right? Like the opportunity was through the film board, and it just allowed that moment of time for things to explode. That would be my take on it. I'm sure that's probably really naive point of view, but seems likely.
Well, not only are the cartoons funny and beautifully timed, but they're also slightly subversive. Like even Get a Job, which is supposed to be a working film to teach people, an approach to getting employment. By the time they finished it, it became a subversive film, basically.
Yeah.
Getting a job.
Exactly.
Finally, he gets a job, but he gets it from his father.
Yeah, thanks, Dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, to undermine the whole point. Yeah. I mean, those were golden years for sure.
Whoa.
But when I was doing Cat, I wasn't really part of the community because I was super shy. I would only go in to use the flatbed, the Steenbeck, at night when nobody was there. I managed to get a key to the building and would go in at night when there'd be nobody there. And so I didn't really know the people at the film board well.
Yeah, but you worked with...
I was sort of peripheral, but I got to know Richard well enough to ask him to be on board and do the voice, and I did know Brad, but I just, in terms of that mixing in with the community and that sort of building, just if I was the same person now, back then I would mix with everybody, but I was like super quiet, like super the classic sort of animator thing, right? Like a lot of animators are very internal.
Yes, absolutely.
So, yeah. So
socially inept, almost. If they're good, they're usually socially inept.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It's a inverse relationship.
But you worked with Neil McGuinness on Cat. He was doing airbrush work. You and Neil. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I bought an airbrush compressor and pen because I think he was tied up. He did a lot of the ones. The better ones were done by Neil. And then, but they were mainly just the skies, right? Like everything else was just the old classic cell paint and black line. And I wanted that flat, blocky kind of color thing. But yeah, when it came to the final scene, when it went up into the sky, Neil did that one because it had to be, better than what I could manage. So, but now when I think about it, it would have looked fine when you think about Ren and Stimpy. I mean, if let's say I didn't clean the airbrush pen well enough and it started spitting out blobs of color, that would have looked great, right? Like that would have been totally fine. But
if you shot it and put it into your movie, everyone would think that's what you wanted.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
Mama. There's also a guy named Ches Yetman who shows up all over the place in Winnipeg. Movies.
Yeah, Ches.
Yeah,
Ches Yetman. Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was the producer. I don't know when he came in and when I think Mike Scott left after I was greenlit for Cat Came Back. I think he left and then Chess became producer somewhere in that zone. But like I say, I never went in, right? Like, except after hours. So I never was really aware of the changing of the guard, you know? Yep. Yeah, it was weird.
The Invaders is fantastic because you basically have two amateurs doing your voices.
Yeah,
It works beautifully.
Yeah.
I think that Jay wouldn't have been a good choice because it would have made it too professional, I think, in a sense.
Yeah, and it was just gestural vote. I mean, there were words spoken, but not many, and it's just kind of little half sentences of things, right? So, yeah.
Well, those are the movies that have, they can be shown to the world.
Right.
I always think that you should.
Yeah.
Long stretches of dialogue.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this one, my current one, I mean, it'd be tough to deal with, other than in English. There'd be a lot of reading to do, because of the subtitling, because it'd be all the way through. And but my next film, I wanted to go back to that kind of more pantomime, just gestural voices, and that's what I call it anyway. And just simple things that evoke a mood, but they don't really advance the story. It's just to pump up the character a little bit, right? So I like that better than just characters pantomiming non-verbally through a scene. It connects the audience more. It even just these little nothing things. I mean, if a character goes, "Okay, bye," or something like that, I think pretty much anybody in the world would know what's being said there, right? I mean, okay is universal, and bye, everyone in the world knows at least a few fundamental English words, right? It's pretty unavoidable, I would think, right? So anyway, it helps ground it to the audience.
I mean, this is the longest talk I've ever had with Cordell in my life, even though he's written me letters and I've seen his movies and I admire him, and I'm so happy to know he's making another movie.
Well, we hung out at David and Allison's place and went out, and at your place. I was at your place.
You were at my place.
Yeah, and you and your girlfriend, wife,
Victoria.
Yeah, took me over to David and Allison's.
When was this?
When I was in for the Spark.
Oh.
Yeah.
That was it. So in 2017.
Yeah.
In 2017.
wow.
I didn't know what year it was, but yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah. So we did the Canada 150. And
okay.
it was October. That was in October of
yes.
2017.
I think that's right.
All in Vancouver, right?
That's right. We had that little event was at the Vancouver Film School, Marv. We had it at the theater.
Yeah.
I remember now. Okay.
Yeah.
Allison and David are great friends. I love those folks.
Yeah. Yeah. We had a nice time over there. Yeah.
You moderated that presentation, I think. I wasn't there, but I think Marv, did you moderate that interview?
Yeah. You moderated it.
Jeepers creepers. I'm going to have my head taken down.
That's how memorable it was.
Dipped into, yeah.
That was I must have given a pretty flat delivery, I guess. I don't know, but no, don't worry. I forget.
I'm not worried. I do this all the time. I'm experienced.
Okay. You mean about forgetting things?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me entirely. Entirely.
Well, it's a privilege speaking with you at length like this.
Yeah, that was fun. I enjoyed that.
And I like to thank Spark Animation for making this all possible, and Keith Blackmore for keeping me kind of, well, this will appeal to you, Cordell. I'd like to thank Keith for keeping me on the rails. And
okay. Yeah, that's good.
Well, most of the time. But anyway, thanks a lot for all the insights, and I hope that people out there that see this will appreciate it. And I hope that they'll all make a point of, if they haven't seen your movies already, of looking at The Cat Came Back and Runway and Strange Invaders. And I'm so happy to know you're making new movies. So I have something to live for, and I'll cut back on my alcohol intake in order to, be able to see that stuff in a good frame of mind.
Yes, do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah. Well, thanks very much. I enjoyed it. And thanks, Keith.